Welcome into another exciting edition of the Stingray Show, everybody. I am your host, Stephen Ray, and it looks like Heath is probably going to not join us today as he took a brand new job. So on this edition today, we are going to be joined by Rennie Curran to talk about his playing days at the University of Georgia. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we get you primed and ready for the interview with Rennie Curran only on the Stingray Show.
The Dogs and Stingray are coming for you!
This is Stephen Ray, aka Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Good afternoon, Mr. Feinbaum. Stingray here, and I'm about to shoot the bull with you like all the Auburn students do down at Auburn.
Worst defense ever!
So without further ado, here is the biggest Alabama going for the field goal. The kick is up. It is away. It is no good. Chris Davis bringing it out of the end zone. Oh, he's got blockers. Chris Davis up the sideline. Here he goes.
Here we go, guys. Dobbs back to pass. Launching the ball. Jennings, he's got it. Jennings, he's got it. Touchdown, Tennessee. They shocked the Dogs in Sanford Stadium. Are you kidding me? My God almighty. What an epic way for the Tennessee-Georgia rivalry to end this game. What a play. Wow.
Welcome inside another exciting edition of the Stingray Show, everybody. I am your host, Stephen Ray, and believe it or not, while the intro was playing, we had Heath join us. So let me go on ahead and pull up my co-host, Heath. Heath, how are you doing today, sir? Hey, man. We got an audio issue. For some reason, we cannot hear Heath. Hold on.
What about now?
Yes, I got you now, man. How are you doing today, sir?
Oh, man, I'm here, there, and everywhere today, Stephen. I am on the go today.
Man, I am so glad to have you back with us, and I'm actually really glad that we are doing a show again.
Oh, absolutely. I hate that we had some problems with Restream last week and Chrome, and
Yeah.
So hopefully the technical issues were on their side finally got worked out. So I'm glad that we kind of hit the ground running, and we're up and going again.
Dude, going ahead and fill everybody in on what you've been doing since we've been away.
Well, had to go pick up another gig and make some things happen with the pandemic. I am sure I am not the only one, but things have gotten a little slower for me and my family, inconsistent. And
Right.
So we didn't want to fool around with it. And so we wanted to be proactive. So I am in the financial world right now and enjoying that.
So, man, that's awesome. Well, dude, real quick, I know we can't keep you long because you are working, but real quick, what were your thoughts on the Super Bowl on Sunday?
It is amazing to see and realize, just like Nick Saban is to Alabama in college football, it's amazing to see the greatest of all time playing in front of our eyes.
Yes.
A lot of people doubted that Tom Brady, when he was a rookie and young and up and coming, everyone talked about how he had everyone around him. And Drew Bledsoe really led that team. And Drew would have won the Super Bowl if he didn't get injured. And then it turned into, he had all this talent around him. And then it was Bill Belichick is the reason. And you're just a system quarterback. I think we could put all those things to rest now.
Yes.
I definitely think Tom Brady is the absolute greatest quarterback of all time. He doesn't have to be the greatest every game. He just has to be the greatest in big games, and that's what he's done.
Yes. Well, man, we'll let you go because I know you are on crunch time, but we want to thank you, man. And, hopefully we can get your schedule down to where you can join us, for a full show the next time.
Yeah, the schedule is going to be a little iffy here for about one more week.
Yes.
And then things will get back to normal here shortly. So I really look forward to doing the show. We are up and coming. Big things are on the horizon for the Stingray show. And I just look to add to that here in the days and weeks to come.
Thank you so much, man. And thank you for joining me. And we will let you go. Have a great rest of your afternoon and enjoy it, my friend.
All right, Stingray. See you, bud.
Thank you, bud. All right. Well, that was Heath. Obviously, he has a new gig right now. So, unfortunately, he will not be joining us live through the remainder of the show. However, we do have an interview that we did a couple of weeks ago with Rennie Curran, the Georgia linebacker from a few years ago. So without further ado, let's go on ahead and let me play for you guys the very interesting and fun interview that Heath and myself did with the one and only Rennie Curran. Well, Heath, as you can see back here behind me, I've actually got my Georgia Bulldog back there, and I've got a Bulldog flag, as you can see there. And the reason I do is because we actually have a big-time Georgia football player. His name is Rennie Curran. What are some of your most memorable moments of Rennie?
Well, one moment I remember, he laid out Tim Tebow on a vicious hit in the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. I know the schools don't want to be referred to that, but SEC fans will always refer to it as that. I would have asked him about that, but Rennie was all over the field. He was a bad dude when he played for Georgia. So I look forward to talking to Rennie and asking him about some of his playing days and his time in the NFL.
And as you can see, there is, of course, Rennie right there making his debut known in the black game there with Auburn. Well, Heath, as you can see back here behind me, I've actually got my Georgia Bulldog back there, and I've got a Bulldog flag, as you can see there. And the reason I do is because we actually have a big-time Georgia football player. His name is Rennie Curran. What are some of your most memorable moments of Rennie?
Well, one moment I remember, he laid out Tim Tebow on a vicious hit in the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. I know the schools don't want to be referred to that, but SEC fans will always refer to it as that. I would have asked him about that, but Rennie was all over the field. He was a bad dude when he played for Georgia. So I look forward to talking to Rennie and asking him about some of his playing days and his time in the NFL.
And as you can see, there is, of course, Rennie right there making his debut known in the black game there with Auburn. So without further ado, let's go on ahead and bring up Rennie. Rennie, how are you doing today, sir?
Doing great, man. Glad to be on. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, man. And we really want to thank you for joining us. And real quick, what are you doing nowadays?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that, man. So since my playing days, man, or actually even before my playing days ended, I got into the world of professional development, starting in entrepreneurship, starting by becoming an author. So after I left the University of Georgia, I left early as a junior, and things started out great in the NFL. But as we all know, situations can change drastically. So after my second year, they fired Jeff Fisher, who was my coach that brought me in. They drafted two new guys. I don't know if you guys remember back in 2011, but the lockout happened. So that created a lot of uncertainty. And, they also brought in guys through our free agency. So I ended up getting cut after my second year. And I was back home for about 8 months and was really just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And so I thought of how can I take all those experiences from my past life as a linebacker, as a leader on my team, as somebody who always strive to improve and focus on just development and performance and leadership, how can I infuse that into another area of life, especially if I wasn't never able to get a call again? And so that's when I started really just peeling back the layers, looking at the skill sets that I had, started to write, started to speak at different places, and really just develop myself. And so that led to me writing my first book at the age of 24 called Free Agent, and I'll talk more about that. And then also from there, I started to meet with different people, different business leaders. And one of the guys who I came across was actually John Gordon, the writer of Energy Bus. He's written about 10 books. He's kind of like John Maxwell. And so from there, I was still chasing my career as an athlete, went on to play with Tampa Bay, went on to also play in the CFL as well with the Edmonton Eskimos and the BC Lions. But I always had that foot out in the world of entrepreneurship as a speaker and as an author, as I said before. Eventually, I also started doing some corporate training and workshops and also coaching as well. I got certified as a personal development coach or leadership and business coach is what I call it now. And so that's what I do full time, man. Since retiring in 2017, I'm now a full time keynote speaker, author. I've written 2 books, and then I also offer workshops and one-on-one coaching, helping business leaders. And then also, of course, I work with athletes on the side, but essentially helping them with their life, with their business, with their leadership and performance abilities. And yeah, that's what I do in a nutshell. Have a nonprofit as well. That's kind of on the other side of things, besides my business. And my nonprofit is called the Game Changers Foundation, and we help current and former athletes in sports business, and life. And we do that through 3 ways: through community engagement, mentorship, and professional development. So I'm excited, man. I'm been able to really leverage all those experiences playing at University of Georgia. Like I said, being that team captain, being somebody who focused on leadership and performance, and now I'm able to really impact others, man, and impact my community through all those things, man. So it gets me fired up. Something I love doing every single day, and something that the good Lord has blessed me to be able to do.
Well, and let me ask a follow-up to that, please. Go on ahead and tell everybody about your podcast and where they can find it as well.
Yeah, so my podcast, I started about 2 years ago. It's called the Game Changers Podcast. And we interview a lot of people from different backgrounds, and not just athletes, but also other business leaders in other industries, just about things like personal development, leadership, entrepreneurship, mindset, so on and so forth. So it's all about how are you using your platform to be a game changer in the community, for your family, and in your career.
Rennie, you were such a monster on the field, but you seem like this really nice guy. How easy can you turn that switch on, man?
Man, I tell people all the time, don't let it fool you. Like when I got on the field, man, I was, relentless, man. That's something that I still bring with me to this day, is just that mindset of being a champion, that mindset of going hard no matter what I do. And, you do, of course, have to know how to turn it off and on. Of course, I'm not these days battling 6'8", 300-pound offensive linemen. So that changes things a little bit. But at the same time, man, I still take that same mentality. I still approach everything that I do as if I'm playing linebacker. I still train extremely hard, still got my biceps, so didn't lose those. But love every aspect of just what I was able to do, man. And that's kind of part of that transition, right? Is not always being, in that savage mode, what I call a war mentality. You have to learn to adjust and to move forward, man. So I've had to learn how to walk into the boardrooms now and still have that mindset there, but just approach it in a different way where I'm a little bit more calmer,
Hey,
and it's been an interesting journey.
you got to put those guns up, Rennie.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't lose those, man.
So, Rennie, hey, talk about Mark Richt and your relationship with Coach Richt. What was it like playing for him? And tell us how it all started with your recruiting.
Yeah, so I mean, there's always that aspect of when you meet somebody, or even before you meet them, right? When you're seeing somebody from afar, especially somebody of his stature. I was a kid. I grew up in Snellville, 45 minutes away from Athens. Grew up watching David Pollack, David Green. Went there at 10 years old, and it was my dream. And I remember watching Coach Richt on Saturdays and just dreaming about one day being able to meet him, being able to be around him, being coached by him. That was my obsession growing up. And so to actually go from that to meeting him in person, man, it's like, you have those, you hear people talk about it all the time where they'll meet somebody they look up to and then they realize the type of person they are. And they're like, man, that horrible. I wish I would have never met them. And it ends up being a bad experience. But in this case, when it came to Coach Rick, I mean, everything that you see, man, everything that you see about him as far as him being a man of faith, him being a man of integrity, I can say that just when I did meet him, and then when I was coached by him, it was that consistency, man. Just a great man who is, not by any means, because he gets, I feel like a bad rep sometimes when people kind of make it seem like because he's a man of faith and because he's a man of character that he can be soft and whatnot. But Coach Rick was extremely, at times, very intense, disciplinarian. Like he was about, and the thing about him is he was about more than just an X's and O's. He wanted to see you develop as a man ultimately, which I think is the greatest compliment as a coach is because you get a small window of opportunity to play the game, and so
Right.
you have to have a coach that really cares about you beyond just what you do on the field. And I can say now we still have a relationship. He still helps so many guys throughout their career on and off the field, and a lot of times it's not really talked about. But he's a great guy, great coach, great man, and he's really built up so many men who are now leaders and who are fathers and who are doing great things.
Hey, talk about one thing that Coach Rick taught you that you still remember to this day.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things, man. Just being able to step up and be a leader. That was one of the things that he taught me, and he put me in that position at a very, I was 19, 20 years old when I really got that, started to get that position as a leader on the team. And whether it be him having me come up and speak to the team and share my thoughts and ideas, or just being vulnerable, and then also knowing how to balance being in that spotlight, but then also being out in the community. Like those are things that he taught me by his actions. He used to have us go out to the different camps, whether it was Camp Sunshine or different things like that. So he showed us how you can be a person of great stature, a person who has notoriety, but you can still be personable as well. You can still go out, affect people's lives, be an influencer, be a man of faith, be a family man. He always had his family around. So just by the way he lived his life, he taught us so many different things.
Well, I apologize for putting the phone up there, but I had to make sure that the audio was going out, so we're good there.
No
So I want to talk to you real quick about your playing days. When
Yeah.
you go back to your playing days, what is like one of the most exciting or fun games that you ever played in?
Man, there's so many games I could think of. Just that whole entire college experience, and it starts. You talk about the games, but it starts long before that, man. The preparation. That's what fans don't realize is like you start playing that game long before the season actually starts. Right now, guys are in training right now as we speak. They're waking up 4 a.m., 5 a.m., getting it in. So it starts long before then. But when I think about some of my most fun experience, and that's kind of the reward, right? After you go through mat drills and after you go through training camp, the game time, man, Saturdays is like Christmas and everything. So some of the most fun games, obviously the UJ Auburn blackout game, that was one of the most fun games I've ever had. And you reach that point as a team where, for us, it was at that point where we really started to gel and really started to come together. And now, we're trusting in our coaches, we're trusting in each other, and we're just out there having fun. So like UJ Auburn blackout game was one of those, man. The Sugar Bowl was another one where we're just flying around, man. We're knocking heads, we're having fun. We got that swag. We know going into the game that we're gonna do something special, that we're gonna win. And when you have that mentality, man, it's like those games just become even more fun. And so the Auburn game was definitely one of them. We played against like one of my favorite hits was against a guy I still talk smack to him this day, Brad Lester, who played at Auburn. It was him and Ben Tate at that time, and he caught a running back sweep to the right. Still remember like it was yesterday. He actually played at my rival high school at Parkview. I went to Brookwood High School. Parkview was like basically the biggest rivalry in the state at that time. And that was my freshman year. Like I said, he caught that running back sweep to the right. And I mean, I came downhill, y'all, and just ran through his ass. Like I almost hit him back to the stands. So yeah, it felt good. It was one of those hits that you didn't even really have to wrap up. Like I just literally ran through him full speed. So and he tried to say he got tripped up, but I'm like, nah, bro, you got lit up on that one.
Rennie, tell us about the recruiting process, your personal recruiting process, and a funny story that might have happened during your time as a recruit.
Oh yeah, man. My recruiting process, there could be a whole movie about my recruiting process because it started when I talked about how your season starts before the season and how you start preparing for it. I started it was the same thing for me. Being a guy who was labeled undersized, being a guy who was doubted, and from the get-go, because I actually most people don't know, I actually played running back. That was my natural position. But I got moved to linebacker after my freshman year in high school. And so I was already there at a disadvantage, being that I was undersized, like I said. And so uh, I was on nobody's radar to start, man. After my sophomore year, I started getting a couple looks here and there. But when it came to going to Georgia, I definitely wasn't on Georgia's radar. Like I remember the first couple calls I made to Georgia, them saying like, look, we're looking at other guys out of state, and if they don't commit, if they don't give us any feedback, we'll get back to you, kind of thing. And I felt some type of way about it. I'm not gonna lie. But I was relentless. I knew that was my dream. I knew that's where I wanted to go. And so I had a coach during that time named Dickie May, who was he came from Decula High School, and he coached me my sophomore year at Brookwood. And actually coached um, Dickie actually coached Des Williams. So you guys remember when we had the three-headed monster? We had Thomas Brown, we had Danny Ware, and we had Craig Lumpkin. Dez was a fullback for those guys. So Coach May connected me with Dez Williams, and so I think he was in his junior year at that time, junior senior year. I was 15 years old, 16 years old, and I used to go up there. My little league coach would literally come check me out of school, and we would drive down 316, man, and we did that for about like I mean all the spring practice that year. I think it was like 2004, 2005. We go up there, and I'm just this little kid just hanging around, just wide eyed, just no on nobody's radar. Like I said, and was just that annoying little brother. I'd be in the locker rooms after the game. Guys would make fun of me, like, "What? Aren't you supposed to be in school right now?" And like I would just be like, that's how my recruiting process started. And then from there, after my sophomore year, that's when I like things really started picking up. But my junior year, I made 198 tackles in that season and got my highlight tape together with one of my teammates' fathers, and just got to Georgia, went to Georgia Tech, went to Auburn, and just started selling myself, man. I became a salesman at that age. And so it really was just about building that momentum, making plays, getting in the weight room, being relentless, and just making myself undeniable. I got to the point where it's like they could say I was undersized, right? But they couldn't say I didn't make plays. They couldn't say that I wasn't a leader. They couldn't say I wasn't a man of character. So everything that I could maximize, I did that, man. And so that's what made the biggest difference. And once I got signed by UGA my junior year and committed, then I became a recruiter for them. So I started reaching out to guys like I don't know if you guys remember Eric Berry.
Oh
I don't know
yeah,
if you guys remember, yeah, Jonathan Dwyer,
yeah.
Caleb King. I'm reaching out to all these guys, and I'm just like, hey, we had MySpace at that time, so I'm reaching out to them, and I'm like, hey, come to UGA, and I just love the idea of being that hometown kid, and love the idea of just being a guy who inspired the next generation, because I knew there were other athletes who were undersized and had that same dream. So yeah, that was my motivation, man. The recruiting process was serious. And then the funny story that you brought up was that towards the end of my recruiting process, when they did the home visits, Coach Rick
Mhm.
actually and Bobo and John Jancic, they all came to my house for the in-house visit. And so my mom, decided to make some Liberian food and everything. And so she made a dish called jollof rice. And it's one of the staple dishes. It's kind of like a fried rice.
Right.
Really, really good. Yeah. And so we're all sitting at my table in our family dining room, and my dad comes and he brings. My dad also has a garden in the back of our house, and he makes he plants ghost peppers, habanero peppers, like the hottest peppers. Like this stuff will make you go to the bathroom if you're not used to eating it. And so he makes he makes a sauce out of this pepper, and he brings this sauce to the table as my mom's setting the table and everything, and we're getting all the plates out. And Coach Rick looks over and he's like, "What's that over there? I want to try some of that." You know, he's trying to really get to know us and get comfortable and be part of the family and get to know the Liberian culture. And I look up and I'm like, Coach, you do not want to try that. Trust me, like I don't even eat that. And then Coach and I was like, that's like the hottest pepper you can eat. And Coach was like, man, nah, I love peppers. I want to try this. And then and then Coach Bobo and Coach Jansen were like, yeah, we want to try some too. And I was like, oh dang, this is gonna be bad. And so no lie, they all just got like a little dabble of it and put it on the jollof rice. And like I just saw them eat it and go down their throat, and then all of them just turn bloodshot red. And I'm just like, and they're all trying to play it off. And I'm like, oh man, Coach Rick, all these coaches about to die at my house. And we had a huge pitcher of water, and like that thing was gone in like 3 minutes, man. But we still, yeah, we still joke about that this day, man. It was hilarious.
Hey, Rennie.
Great story.
Hey, Rennie, real quick. That was one of those "I told you not to do it" stories.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's like, hey, I told you, I warned you.
Oh yeah. Nah, they never forget it. Anytime I see Coach Bobo, Coach Jancic, or Coach Rick, they're always like, tell your mom we want some peppers, some more, some more peppers. Oh man. So yeah, it was one of the best moments in my life, man. Just to go from that kid who was on nobody's radar, kid who was an underdog, who loved Georgia, to actually being able to make it happen. And they gave me an opportunity. At the end of the day, I worked extremely hard for it. It wasn't handed to me whatsoever, but they took that chance on me, and I went up there, and it just meant more. And when I think about the recruiting process, and I see how now we're bringing in all these 5 stars and these different guys, some from out of state, some who are highly touted, I'm like, man, it's just different when you grow up and you're a Georgia fan, and you grow up as a child in those stands. It's just even more special when you are able to, wear that jersey and live your childhood dream. It's like you just go harder. It's like that you're playing for something bigger than yourself. You're playing for those in your hometown who are looking up to you. You're playing for all those coaches who helped you along the way. You're playing for your teachers who poured into you. So it's just different, like I said.
Well, Rennie, let's go back to your playing days just for a second. The blackout game for Auburn worked out pretty well for you guys, but then later on, the blackout game for Alabama didn't really work out so well. Can you kind of take us through that game, the hype about it, and what you ultimately think went wrong as to why you guys were basically not able to play with Alabama on that one day?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things and I talk about this all the time when I'm asked about just, SEC football and the level of competition, man. And it's one of those things where it's any given Saturday. Like if you allow a team to come into your house and they are able to build momentum, and then you do things to help them, like shooting yourself in the foot and like not capitalizing on plays that whether it's an interception that you might be able to have that that you drop, or not scoring in the red zone and getting the field goal instead. Like all those little things add up, and that's what happened. Like they already came in with a chip on their shoulder. They knew they had a point to prove from that year that before, where we went into their house and we beat them in overtime and ripped their hearts out. So they were already on a high coming in and knowing that they had something to prove. And then you add that in with the amount of talent that they had. I talk about this all the time, but I mean, you could have literally made an NFL squad out of both of our rosters, a very, very competitive NFL roster. So you had guys like on their team that year, they had Julio Jones, who was a freshman. They had Javier Reyes. They had Mark Ingram, who's still playing in the league right now. I mean, legendary players on the offensive line. I mean, their offensive line, featuring Andre Smith, who was a future first rounder. It was like a human wall. I mean, so you add that in, was just the fact that we were making some mistakes and we were shooting ourselves in the foot. I mean, it made for a long day, and that's what it's about. We still nonetheless had an extremely talented team. Like on our side, we had Geno Atkins, Justin Houston, Muhammad Mascout, AJ Green, Matthew Stafford. We had so much talent, and I think that year the rankings may have gotten to us a little bit too. We went in that year coming off a high, you know, number 2 in the nation, and so we knew we had the talent. But in terms of that leadership, like when our backs were against the wall, we did not have the best form of just collective leadership like we had in '07, and that momentum and that camaraderie. It was more like we knew we were talented, we knew we had the ability, so we're just going to go out here and play and do our thing, instead of really putting emphasis on that leadership piece.
And
So ultimately, that's some of the things that held us back. I think when I look at that game, it was definitely, I was actually watching it a couple weeks ago, and we made penalty after penalty after penalty, and you just can't do that against a great team.
And a follow up to that, real quick. Talk about the game that you talked about and mentioned there.
Mhm.
The game where y'all went into Tuscaloosa and ripped their heart out in overtime. Please talk about that experience and especially that last play where Matt Stafford actually hit the game winning touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, the same is true for the opposite, right? Like they made some early costly mistakes that kept us in the game, right?
Yes.
And then we were able to capitalize on some big plays. No, Sean had a great day. That was his coming out party, just like against us. You know, that next year, Julio Jones had a great day. I mean, just so many things have to line up. And then we were on a high coming into that game as well too, knowing that we're going into a hostile environment. And sometimes when it's like that, when you know you're going into a hostile environment, you know you just your level of focus has to be that much greater, right? And so you come in with that killer instinct, knowing that you can't make any mistakes, knowing that you have to have the best game of your life. And then on the other side, when you're playing at home, you know you got the home field advantage, you know you got the fans. You tend to be a little bit more relaxed. You tend to know, okay, we're in our home environment, we're in our home turf. We can make this happen as long as we do what we need to do. So we went in there knowing that we had to have a great day, and I think that's what made the difference. And then you got to have a little bit of luck too. You know, when your number's called, you got to be ready to make that play. Have a little bit of lady luck, and things go your way too. So that's what ultimately helped us to win that game.
You mentioned a lot of big names. Do you guys ever get together and talk about recruiting stories? What's the craziest recruiting story you've ever heard?
Oh man, we definitely still talk about all those things, man. All the, it's there's so many things, so many experiences, so many things that happened during that time that it all just starts to become a big blur. Like, but you do obviously remember the times going downtown and the parties, and that's definitely a part of recruiting, because that's part of the package of college football and collegiate sports, is the fact that you come in there, you're an 18-year-old. You've never, in a lot of cases, been to a college town. You've never seen what the college nightlife looks like. So it's like the first time you go downtown, you see the girls, and it's like that's a major selling point. Like, as opposed to going to a Tech or something, like they don't look like that at Georgia Tech. You know, yeah. So I mean, that's definitely a part of like the stories that you remember, man. Is your first time going downtown, your first time hanging out with the guys that you only watched on TV. Like, no Sean was my recruiting tour guide. So obviously I had a great time. Like, he was becoming a big name at that time. So we just had an amazing time. But I don't have any specific stories per se, but just the overall experience was amazing, man. That you connect with guys who eventually become your lifelong friends, and that's the first time you meet them. That's the first time you guys all get together. Like in my recruiting class, I had Caleb King, I had Clint Bowling, Justin Houston, Drew Butler, guys like that, man. So you just start to form this bond, and you start to build that momentum at that point, and you start to see the leaders emerge and things like that, man. So it's just exciting.
Rennie, are all recruiting trips the same? You go and have great food, you tour the campus, you dance with a pretty girl. Are they all the same?
I'd say pretty much. I mean, you're always gonna have the good food. You're always gonna do the tour of the facilities and kind of get a rundown of how things are how things operate, right? You're going to meet the coaches, you're going to have sit down with them, and they're going to go over your goals and your aspirations and the things that you want to do. You're going to meet with the academic staff, all those types of things. And then, of course, you're going to get to meet some of your future, possibly your future teammates. You're going to
Right.
go get a chance to see kind of behind the scenes, because before then, it's kind of like you have that perspective where you only see them on Saturdays, you see them making plays. But now it's like you really get to know these guys as like potentially becoming your brothers for the next 4 years of your life. And that's when it really becomes special, is when you go and you get to hang out in the dorm rooms with them, see what their life is like. You get to talk to them, hear about what classes they're taking, and get to dive a little bit more into their personal life. And at that moment, you can kind of start to envision yourself. Is this a place that I could see myself, man, for the next 4 years? Are these guys that I want to be around? Is this the type of culture that I want to be in, man? And so that's where a lot of decisions ultimately are made, where you're walking around, you're meeting folks, and you're saying, man, wow, I feel like I'm at home. Or it's like, man, nah, I don't think I want to be here. Like this ain't it. Or, this isn't really the environment I want, man. So it's, like I said, it's a special time.
Really, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Did any campus have ugly girls that were bad dancers and the food was terrible?
I mean, tech was just like, it was pretty whack, man. I'm not gonna lie. They're recruiting for, like, yeah, they really don't have much of. I don't think I did really anything. I didn't go on my official visit to a lot of these schools. Georgia was the only place that I went, so that was the one regret that I had, was going on official visits to every school. But when I did go, one of the things that turned me off was Chan Gailey was the coach at that time, and he was like, "All right, guys, so you come to Tech, you're either going to be a millionaire when you leave, or you're going to get a job making six figures." And I was like, "Come on, man, that sounds like
Yeah,
snake oil, man." Like that
all
sounds
they care about there is being engineers, right?
right. Yeah, and I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Wasn't
Yeah,
trying to really become a chemical engineer or whatever. So that and then when he said that, that kind of was like, all right, this dude's a straight salesman, so I
yeah.
have to watch him. So got the no feeling. So yeah, man. But it's definitely fun overall. Just being in the position to have the chance to go and visit these different facilities and get the behind the scenes access and be on the sidelines, man. It's an extreme blessing, especially when you're a guy like me whose parents knew absolutely nothing about football, Liberian immigrants. And now for me being the first person in my family to actually be able to experience this, man, it was extremely powerful. And to be able to expose my parents to this, man, is and be a trailblazer for my family. It's just so much bigger than football.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Rennie, one of my favorite games every single year, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. And my absolute favorite moment from that rivalry
Mhm.
is when Georgia scored a touchdown at the beginning of the game. The entire bench leaves and goes celebrates in the end zone. What were you doing during that play? How did you celebrate, and how did that come about?
Man, so yeah, I was right there with the crowd, man. The game. So the way that came about is Coach Rick was basically like leading up to that game. I want you guys to be so fired up for this game. I want you guys to go in with an edge. We knew we had to come in with an edge, a mental edge, and have that killer instinct and be the bully this game, because we were tired of being pushed around by Florida. We were tired about that. Tired when it came to that mental edge that they had over us, where they just kind of intimidated us, just being in their presence, knowing that they were a high caliber team. So we're like, we're gonna break this. We're gonna change things this year. And he's like, I want you guys to be so fired up that if you guys don't get an excessive celebration penalty, then I'm gonna make it all you guys run come this following week. And so we're like, oh, okay, And so when No scored that first touchdown, man, it was like all hell broke loose. And so guys started running, man. It was like pandemonium. And one of the seniors, I think it was Donnell Ellerby, was like, man, come on. And so me being a freshman, I'm just looking, watching everybody go. And then one of the seniors said, come on. And I was like, all right. So as an 18-year-old, I'm just following the crowd. And so I went in and jumped in on the fun. And in my back of my head, I'm like, man, I can't believe we're doing this. And at the same time, I was like, man, this is crazy. We got to win now. We got to win.
Right.
So,
I
yeah.
noticed on the video. I was watching the highlights last night, and actually, Coach Rick had a big smile on his face Did he ever say anything to you guys in the locker room after the game or at halftime about that excessive celebration penalty?
No, I mean he never really did. At least I don't remember him saying anything. I definitely remember him, answering for it and different things like that. But at that time, man, we were really just focused on having that edge, man, that mental edge, that swag, and really just getting Georgia football back to that standard of where it needed to be, that standard of excellence, that standard of greatness. So that's all we were really focused on. It wasn't to necessarily try to stick it to Florida or anything like that. It was really more so for us, man, to get over that hump that we needed, that eventually built that momentum, man. It was about us having fun. It was about us playing loose. It was about us just doing what we knew how to do, which was play at a high level, man, and not really think about things, man, but just go out there and do what we were coached to do.
Rennie, y'all scored first in that game. Then you go out and dance and show out and have fun. Multiple penalty flags. I remember Tebow and Urban would try to start their own little dance party over on their sideline. But what was the rest of that game like on the field?
It was intense. Every single play mattered. Just like I spoke before about, us going against Bama and us going against Auburn. It was just one of those games, man. Like they really brought it. And, at the end of the day, we were playing at such a high level because we knew what we had done. And so that made us lock in even more in terms of what the plays we knew needed to be made, and ultimately how we knew we had to win that game, or it was going to be the biggest embarrassment ever. So, like I said, once we made that dive to do that, it was like, okay, guys, now it's time to really go. Now it's time to really turn up. But that's what that gesture did for us, right? It did help us overcome that fear that we had of Florida and that intimidation that they had over us. Now it was like, okay, y'all, this is our game. You're welcome to our world. You're playing on our terms. So that's what it did for us.
Well, but what was being said and shouted across the field line of scrimmage for the rest of the day?
Man, it was just a lot of trash talk, a lot of, you ain't worth the crap, the other words said, but something along the lines of that, like you suck and you're not worth anything. And those type of things were being said. And that's all at all times, man. When people don't realize, like, when you're out there, you're on the field, it's like war without the bullets, but you're literally trying to take each other's head off. And I had an interview with Tebow like 2019 when I got inducted into the Georgia Florida Hall of Fame. It was me, Brandon Spikes, and Jarvis Jones and a couple other guys, but we did something with SEC Nation where Tebow was interviewing. He was like, man, you were so annoying. Like I could not get away from you. I was like, man, I was trying to take your head off every chance I could get. I told him straight off, and it's the truth, man. Like we're out there trying to make our dreams come true, trying to, not just live a childhood dream and not just trying to be great players, but we're trying to feed our families. Like after college, like it gets real. This is like you're talking about your career. So it's like me or you, dog eat dog. And so that's how that's a level of like intensity that we have when we're out there.
Timmy, is he much of a trash talker on the field?
Oh yeah. Like a lot of guys hated Tim Tebow. Like like he was definitely a trash talker, and he would try to get everybody hype and all those things, and then the media was riding him like crazy. Tebow mania. So a mixture of all those things just really by the time you got to play him, you were just so annoyed and so ready to just destroy him that you're willing to do anything.
What kind of things would Timmy say on the field?
Man, just when you get mad or when you try to talk trash, he's like, look at the scoreboard, just little typical annoying things that anybody would say. But it wasn't anything. He was never one to curse or anything like that. But he would definitely trash talk, or if he juked you or anything like that, he would let you know about it. Things like that. Yeah, man. So, and then the thing about Tim, it's not just, you don't just have to deal. You're not just dealing with Tim. And that's the thing. He has such an amazing group. That's another scenario where you could have made an NFL roster out of the guys they had between both teams. They had, the Pouncey twins.
Yeah.
Both of them like 6'6", 315. Then you got, Lewis Murphy, Riley Cooper, Aaron Hernandez. So many great players who went on to have great careers. On
Percy
the
Harvin.
defensive side, yeah, you got Percy. Yeah, I mean Percy Harvin alone, just a
Yeah.
special talent that only comes around like once every so often. Just an electric player, man, like a Reggie Bush type. And then
Yeah.
on defense side, they had Joe Hayden, they had Brandon Spikes, Ahmad Black,
Yeah.
Major Wright. I mean, it was just crazy the amount of the talent. Carlos Dunlap, who's still playing in the league now, Jermaine Cunningham. I mean, I can go on and on. So it's like you're not just dealing with Tebow. It's like you're dealing with their whole entire team, man, and it's just a battle every single play.
Hey, you got a shot on Tebow one time, and a very good shot. What was that like? Tell us about that play.
Oh man, that felt great. That felt great. I kind of been building that up, man, for the whole entire game, like just wanting to get that one or two or three or four or five good hits on him to really just take him out of the game. Like that was my thought process was like, I want to put this guy in a body bag. You know, I hate to say it, but like that's the mentality when you're out there, especially playing linebacker. Like you don't just hit just to hit. It's only for me, it was only I'm trying to take you out the game. I'm trying to lay you out, trying to help my team win at any cost.
Well, let's go on ahead and talk about what was the loudest stadium that you ever played in?
Man, one of the loudest. I mean, that was one of the loudest games. That cocktail game, for sure. And then another game that was super loud was let's see, when we played, huh? Tennessee was pretty loud. Tennessee was loud. South Carolina was loud. I mean, I mean, in Athens, man, when we played South Carolina in 2009, and it came down to those last couple plays, I batted down a pass to help us win at the last couple minutes. That was loud. I mean, you can't hear yourself. It's like like people talk about when you get in the zone, and it just like you're in a room and it goes silent. Like that's basically how it was. So loud that you're yelling and trying to get guys to checks and trying to make adjustments defensively, and you got to use hand signals, and those are things that we work on, throughout the week. Luckily, so that when you can't hear yourself, you just throw a sign up or that or whatever, you're good to go. But there was definitely some loud moments, man, and those were the specific ones I can remember in Jacksonville, going against Tennessee at their place, in Athens when it's like all everything's on the line. It's coming down to those last plays. Steven Garcia was the quarterback, and so the more you can, the fans know this too. The more you can get them, off in terms of their communication, the more it creates an edge. So, yeah,
You know, Rennie, the SEC has always been known as a fast league and an athletic league. But,
yeah.
I've always heard the story about the jump when you go to the NFL in NFL speed. How different is the speed in the NFL compared to the SEC?
Yeah, I mean it's shocking, man. The speed is not only different from the physical standpoint of when you're out there competing, but the speed is different in terms of the implementation of knowledge. So when you get out there as a rookie and you get in rookie minicamp, you get a book that's like that thick, full of install plays and
Wow.
information and procedures and things that you're supposed to do, alignments and assignments. And
Wow.
you'll learn about six or seven defenses in one day in about the span of an hour and a half, and then automatically you're expected to go out there and execute it at a high level. And so just the fact that you're expected to be a professional and be proficient with when it comes to, and at the same time, when you're not given as many reps in a lot of cases, you're not getting a lot of time one on one with your coach, and your coach does not have as much patience because his job's on the line. Those are some of the things that make it extremely challenging. And so you really, really have to dedicate yourself. Like you can't be one of those guys. You're one of those guys who just goes in and just expects to just sit in the film room and just get that little bit of coaching and go out there and think you're gonna play at a high level. You're gonna be gone very quickly. And even if you do, you still may be gone. But you got to be willing to dedicate yourself, come in early, 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock sometimes, really dissect that playbook. And then when it comes to the field, that's a whole different beast. If you don't take the time like to prepare before and then spend that extra time after practice, going over your defenses, knowing your assignments to the point where you don't even have to think about it, it's second nature. you're gonna get beat. Like you're going to. And even if you do, at that level, even if you do those things, you can do a million reps, all those things. You may still get beat a lot. Like their offensive linemen at that level, tight ends who are running 4.4s and 4.5s, offensive linemen who can keep up with you. If you're coming off the edge on a blitz, they can come keep up with you in their back pedal, like and they can field punts as well. Like it's just ridiculous. Like you'll see guys that like you look at them and you're like, man, that's not even fair. It looks like you were created in the freaking lab. So,
Mm-hmm.
like I remember covering. I played against the Patriots when I was with Tampa. Tom Brady and the crew came, and I went head to head against Rob Gronkowski. I mean, guys like 6'8", and it was intense. And then every day in practice, I'm going against Jared Cook, who's with the Saints now. He's one of those mismatched tight ends. He's about 6'7", 6'8", but he runs like a 4.5. And so not only does he have me at a height advantage, but speed wise, it's like if I make one false step, he's gone. Like he's gonna blow by me. So it is extremely tough, and you have to be so precise in terms of your technique, in terms of reading plays and dissecting it before the play starts. And then you look at the age difference too, just the maturity. Like when I'm 32 years old now, and in a completely different headspace than I was at 22 years old, which is when I got in the league. But the guy ahead of me, he was 32 years old. Will Witherspoon was starting ahead of me. He was 32, 33 years old. And so his level of knowledge, his level of life experience, like my brain wasn't even fully developed in that time. So it's just like crazy, and that's why I'm so impressed when I see a guy who can come in as a rookie and can pick it up and can
Right.
play at a high level. Like that's a combination of great coaching, but also being in the right fit, and that can be something that's extremely tough too as a player. If you go into a system that's not a great fit for you, it doesn't matter how talented you are, like you just may be in the wrong position, and so that's what causes a lot of the demise of a lot of guys in their careers as well too, and something that's not really talked about.
Well, let's go on ahead and talk about one of the games I'm sure that you want to forget. It
Hmm.
is the uh, Tennessee game where you guys lost to them and only scored 7 points. Talk
Yeah,
about that experience and what that game was like, even though y'all lost.
yeah, it was definitely a horrible experience. I believe that was in 2007 that happened. Yeah, that was a horrible experience, man. Just going in, and Tennessee is one of the worst places you want to lose because they're gonna play that Rocky Top song until your ears bleed, and then you're gonna it's just gonna be ingrained in your head. And personally, this was an opportunity to get on the field. Weeks before this, like coaches and not really even knowing like what my career would be at University of Georgia. This is the time I was getting kind of frustrated, man. And what a lot of young guys face this, man. But I made up my mind that I'm gonna go by faith, man. I'm just gonna put the work in. I'm gonna go in the film room when nobody else is in there before everybody gets out there. I'm gonna continue to just trust the process. I went in there, watched Tony Taylor, watched Odell Thurman, watched Thomas Davis, and would just devour their film, man. And then even out in practice, I just told myself, man, I'm just gonna practice as if I'm a starter. And so that meant for me, I would be if the team's out on the field, the starters are out on the field, I'm literally like 30 yards behind the starting defense, and I'm just going through the same motions as if I'm their shadow. So I'm moving, place ball snaps. I'm moving, going through the play to a point where guys are looking at me like, Rennie, get off the field. Like, what are you doing? And I didn't care because I wanted to be prepared just in case the opportunity came. So fast forward, I did that for like 6, 7 weeks. Fast forward, we get to that Tennessee game. We're down by 3 touchdown. Game's over pretty much. And that last touchdown that they scored, one of the last touchdowns they scored was by Montario Hardesty. the running back who played with Arian Foster. He ran a running back wheel. The guy who was supposed to cover him on the running back wheel was the guy who was starting ahead of me. And when he missed that assignment, and when Hardesty scored, that's when I got that call from the skybox from Coach Jancic and said, Rennie, you're in. And luckily, all those weeks before that, I had been preparing. And so what happened is I got in there, man, and I was ready. I made a play, the TFL tackle for loss, and like probably about the second play, it was a counter play, running back counter play to Arian Foster, and it hurt because I was a freshman, and I was still a young buck, but got in there, was able to get my first couple snaps in, man. I ended up actually getting a concussion that game. Like they ran um, another counter play, and a wide receiver just came down and crack blocked me, and he knocked me back about 3 quarters. So, but I was able to really show the coaches that they could trust me, that I could make plays, and that I could do what it takes to play in the SEC as an undersized linebacker. And so that next week, I believe we played like Vanderbilt, got a little bit more reps in that game. And then the following week after that was when we played Florida and we ran out on the field, and that was my first start. So it was just, an amazing journey, man, and really showed me the importance of perseverance and dedication and faith, regardless of what your circumstances look like.
Rennie, I'm going to ask you some rapid fire, quick snippet questions real quick.
Sure.
Who's the toughest player that you ever played with or against?
Man, so one of the toughest players I played against, man, let's see. Who did I say the last time? I'm trying to think, man. That's a extremely tough one. But in the NFL, for sure, there was some extremely tough guys that I saw from afar, and guys that I had the chance to play with. One of the guys I played with, his name we just called him Sarge. He was a fullback and just was about 6'1", 240 pounds of just straight muscle. It just was will just destroy you. The year that, I don't know if you guys remember when Chris Johnson ran for 2,000 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a big reason why. I mean, would just punish people. And he was one of the toughest guys I played with, just had that military mindset, that warrior mentality. And it was almost like he felt no pain. And I remember meeting him in the hole a couple times, and it was not a pretty sight. Like that, he gave me a lot of welcome to the NFL moments. And another guy that I can think of, man, that was like, I never played with him or against him, but I watched this guy and was on the same field as him. So James Harrison,
Yeah.
that guy, man, I remember him like that. My first year, that was another welcome to the NFL moment. Cause when I saw him, it was like I was just in shock. Cause this dude looked like if you could take a Mack truck and turn it into a human being, like that's what he looked like. Like he was just built for just destroying things. And I'll never forget, man, being on the sidelines and seeing him come off the edge and watching him like suplex. He like suplex / body slam Vince Young. And I was like, man, this guy is like unreal. And that year he got, I don't even know how many fines he got, but he was just like destroying. When I say he was like, this is like a guy who just was straight out of prison and just was like punishing, just punishing people. I think he like almost killed. You guys can look it up. The highlights still on YouTube, but he hit Muhammad Mascoud, and I think that's part of like why Muhammad eventually retired early. Like,
Wow.
I thought like Muhammad was dead. Like honestly, but that was one of the toughest guys that I've seen. Like as far as their physical look and just their level of play. Like he was something serious.
Wow. We might have checked that one out.
Yeah. It's one of those you're gonna cringe when you watch it because he came on like Muhammad came on like a shallow drag, like a 5-yard drag, and then James Harrison was like waiting for him like 10 yards back with a full head of steam and just came down and it was ugly.
What is the fastest player you've ever played with or against?
Definitely Percy Harvin. He was and I told this story before, but my first start, like I mentioned, my first start being at Florida.
Yeah.
That was one of the scariest moments of my life. I'm not gonna lie. Because we put in a special formation. We got the tray package, which is what we run on third down against certain formations. So they'll typically on that in that formation they'll bring a running back, out into the formation, either in the one position, and then they'll put a wide receiver in the backfield. So typically that wide receiver will just be kind of a decoy, right? And so I was tasked with going in whenever they went into this formation, and we called it the tray package. And so when I went out there, they came out in that formation. Florida did for the first play of the game. I went out there, and it just so happened that wide receiver who was supposed to be a decoy was Percy Harvin. And I'm like, I know this dude ain't no decoy. And so I'm supposed to have Percy Harvin man to man. And I'm 18 years old. This is my first start in a major game, and I'm like about to wet my pants. I'm literally like praying to God that he doesn't get the ball. And sure enough, like he's in, he's to Tim Tebow's right. I'm looking, straight at him. He's to my left on Tim Tebow's right,
Right.
and a little bit spaced out. And as a linebacker, based off the alignment of that running back or whoever's next to the quarterback, 9 times out of 10 that they're trying to set him up to do certain things. So I knew that he's probably going to get the ball based off his alignment, because he was just far enough to where I knew, man, it's either going to be a counter play, or he's going to run a wheel route, or it's going to be some type of dump pass to him. And sure enough, man, like ball snap, Tim Tebow did a little dump pass to Percy Harvin, and it was just me and him on an island. And I was just like, I saw my whole life flash before my eyes. Didn't make the tackle, but I force contained. So that was my claim to fame, is I force and contained on Percy Harvin. I contained him.
Who's the meanest player you ever played with or against?
Man, one of the guys for sure was Aaron Hernandez, and
Yeah.
I know he's passed away and things like that, but couldn't stand the guy. Like he was definitely one of those that once they got up on us about 2 touchdowns, he was gonna say some pretty sly remarks, and just try to do some he was a dirty player. Pretty much, he was a dirty player. The Pouncey twins were another one. There were some dirty players.
I was about to ask, who was the dirtiest player? The Pouncey twins?
Yeah, it was a mixture between those three. They're all from that Florida area, so it must be something about that Florida area. I don't know. But them guys were just were really, really, really dirty. I can't really think of any other guy that really just made me hate them. But
Right.
and just like that was it. Because like the Pouncey twins, them being twins was like the craziest thing, because it was like they were in sync at all times because they were twins.
Right.
So if they saw you, like they both play offensive line, so if you were up on one of them trying to get off a block, trying to get off of one of them, the other one would just come in. He would see you trying to get off, and he would just like clean clock you. And they just like they just like it was just part of their package, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So if I'm in a cage match, I want the Pouncey twins to be on my side rather than against them, right?
Oh yeah. You definitely that's the ultimate tag team right there.
Oh man. Hey, who was the smartest guy you ever played with or against?
One of the smartest guys I played with or against.
Is it the smartest guy on the field that knew things were coming, or someone that's a rocket scientist now that went to Georgia Tech, whoever it might be? But who's the smartest you ever played against?
For sure. The smartest guy I played with or against was Myron Rowe. We're actually in the same draft class with the Titans. So, he's a neurosurgeon now. He used to say words that was like, "Bro, are you serious? Like, what? You didn't have to say you didn't even have to say that word. Like, all right." Like it was funny just hearing him talk and just explain different types of things, and him doing his interviews. Like he was just extremely, extremely intelligent and has done some amazing things now that he's done with the game of football. Extremely proud of him.
Wow, that's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Hey, who's the nicest guy you ever played with or against?
The nicest guy I played with or played against. Let's see.
Like always had a smile on his face, might help you out.
Yeah.
Who's the nicest guy you played with or against?
Man, there's two guys that come to mind. Like one of them, Rob Baronis. He was a kicker, and yeah, he was a kicker. I mean, he passed away in a car accident when I was with the Titans, man. But just the coolest guy, always laid back, just always, giving advice, and just a super laid back and fun guy. And then the guy that I played against that was really, really nice and came off really genuine was actually Tom Brady. I
Wow.
yeah, I played against him when I was with Tampa, and I remember after the game, after our practice, I was in a sitting in the cold tub, just trying to recover my legs, and here comes Tom Brady, and I look up and I'm like, "What's up, man?" And we talked for probably like 15 minutes, but just like super nice, super friendly, just no ego whatsoever. It was super super cool, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, in terms of the success that he's had, like you can't
Right.
have that kind of success and be that type of leader unless guys like being around you, and unless guys want to play for you and guys want to block for you and things like that. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense now. But he was super, came off super genuine, super humble, and I never forgot that, being a guy that's at his stature.
Wow, that's very impressive. Stephen and I were talking before the show in production. I was telling him about a video that I saw of Tom Brady, and I'll ask you the question. Gronk asked him the question.
Yeah.
I'll ask you a question. Gronk asked Tom, "What's your favorite ring?" Do you know what Tom's
Mhm.
answer was?
Oh no, I don't know that one.
The next one. That's his favorite ring. Is the next one.
Oh, nice. That's a good one.
So
Love
I
it.
always thought I thought it was a fun answer. But with that being said, will you be pulling for the Bucks in the Super Bowl?
I don't know. It's a tough one, man. Like I know a lot of guys on both sides, man. Like I know, so when I went to Tampa, I actually went there to be a starter, and that was the reason why I went there and was starting with them the whole offseason. Things were going great, and then they drafted a guy by the name of Levante David, and
Yeah,
who's been basically, the best linebacker they've had there since Derrick Brooks,
yeah,
right? So know him well, got a great relationship, and then another guy who's from around here, from the Gwinnett area, Kevin Minter, who played linebacker at LSU. He's there, so know him really well, man. And then another guy I know and mentored a little bit, Andrew Adams, who is a defensive back, who's there. He's an undrafted free agent. So got relationships there, man, and really would love to see them win their first Super Bowl. But
yeah.
then, got to pull for my dogs too. I know Miko really well, Miko Hardman, and would love to see him get another Super Bowl as well. And just speaking on that practical and realistic level, they got so many freaking weapons between him and Tyreek Hill and Kelsey. I think Kelsey's the last name, the tight end.
Yeah,
So I think it's gonna be a close one, man. Like I really think that it's gonna be a great game. Like I can't really um decipher on who I want to see win because like I said, I got relationships on both sides, but I just know it's gonna be a really, really explosive and exciting game just with the amount of weapons that are on each side.
Rennie, I know you're a defensive guy, and no,
Yeah.
we didn't bring you on to talk about the Super Bowl at all. But what makes Tom Brady so great? I mean, what makes him so phenomenal that he's able to do this year after year, decade after decade now? What makes him so great and makes him succeed on the field?
Yeah, I just think, man, it's about his presence as a leader and his ability to raise up everyone around him, man. Like that's what I truly believe it is. Like and any player will tell you this. And when you get to that level, everybody's talented, right? Everybody's good. Everybody knows basically the same X's and O's. Like you got essentially the same system across the board. They'll mix different things up and whatnot. And some coaches and some defensive and awesome offensive coordinators will have nuances and different types of things that they try to do week in and week out to expose certain weaknesses. But ultimately, it's about leadership. It's about leadership. It's about that collective mentality. And this is true whether it's a team or whether it's an organization, right?
Right.
Any organization, any business, any brand. It's like who is leading that company, who is leading that team. And I think that's the edge that Tom Brady brings is that belief that he gives everybody. to just, because Tampa, nobody was talking about Tampa even being in the playoffs, even being a contender at all. And all of a sudden, you got a guy who comes in, a couple guys that come in, and you mean to tell me they just changed like that?
Right.
It's not just, and you can't blame it on just like his the talent, right? Because he had everybody has talent, you
Right.
know. So in my mind, it's literally that collective belief in that camaraderie that's forged by a leader. And once you have that, once you have guys that or leaders that can bring guys together, help them to see a clear vision, clear goal, where like it doesn't matter how much this person is making, it doesn't matter, if this person's starting or not above me, this person getting this amount of reps, but we're all here to achieve a common goal, and we all are believing in a guy like him who also happens to be a great playmaker, then I mean the rest is history. So I think that's the biggest edge that he brings, man, is that leadership and the collective belief that he is able to forge amongst players.
And my last question for you, Rennie, is this. A
Yeah,
lot of people remember the BCS game between you guys and Hawaii. Can
yeah.
you kind of break down that game for us, and especially the hype going into it because of Hawaii and Cole Brennan?
Yeah. So going into that game, that was definitely something we got sick and tired of, was hearing about Cole Brennan, hearing about their high-powered offense, hearing about, how they were doubted and they had something to prove, and this was their opportunity to show the world their greatness at our expense. And so we knew we had to go in there and shut things down. We knew that we had to start fast. And we knew where we were as a team. Like we were building that momentum. We were coming off some big wins. So we also wanted to show the world what we were about. And we felt like we got cheated with that whole system. We felt like we should have been in the national championship game based off, our level of play, based off our level of competition. And unfortunately, we had those couple losses in the beginning of the season that held us back from doing that because of the tie that happened. But we knew that we were the greatest team in the nation at that time. Like we were hot, we were ready to go. So all that talk, all that chatter meant nothing to us. We just wanted to go out there and let the world know and make a statement. And so that was what we did, man. We came out there, man. We had a great game plan. Coach Martinez put together a powerful game plan full of some nice blitz packages, and some things that we're going to do to try to make Colt Brennan uncomfortable. And so going into that game, that was our main thing, is we need to put this guy on his back. We need to welcome this guy to the SEC. So we started fast, man. And I think we had about, shoot, 4 or 5 sacks that game, or maybe even more. Everybody ate that game. And early on, you could see their face. You could see their facial expression that they were not ready. They were not ready for the speed of the SEC. They were not ready for those hits. That was very, very, very apparent very early on when I looked at their offensive linemen. And once we knew we had them shook, like we smelled blood in the water, and we were just, after that, it was just having fun, man, and continuing to make plays and finishing up that game strong. But across the board, we had a great game, man. Offensively, No Sean made great plays. Like everything was just hitting on all cylinders, man. And when I talked about that collective belief and that mentality, like it was all there. That was when we were just having fun, man. Even the stuff off the field, leading up to the week, man. We got to eat at some nice restaurants. Like the whole entire experience of the Sugar Bowl was just a great time.
And one follow up to that, what was the crowd reaction and the sidelines like playing against the majority of Samoans? What was that like, and basically their tradition?
Yeah, I mean, it was honestly a cool experience, because I think that's one of the cool things about playing teams from different areas. Like you really get exposed to their culture, and they weren't like the Tennessee fans or Tech fans obnoxious and things like that. Like they were actually really friendly, and almost like they were happy to be there. This is exposure for them. Many of them, I'm sure probably they've never been to New Orleans, coming from a place like Hawaii. So
Right.
yeah, they were a cool bunch, and it was cool seeing some of the traditions that they had, like the haka dance, and I think that's what it's called. But yeah, just seeing their fans, and yeah, like I said, I heard nothing but good things about their fans and things like that.
Well, Rennie, tell us one more time where we can find you, and anything you'd like to plug, we're right away.
Yeah, so I'm always available for keynote speeches, for workshops, and anybody out there who needs coaching. If you're, a business owner or somebody who is aspiring entrepreneur or looking to expand your brand through public speaking or through book publishing, those are all things I help people with. So if you're a leader trying to improve your performance, if you're trying to clarify your personal brand, if you're trying to just improve your overall performance, help there. And then, like I said, on the speaking side, I do presentations on leadership, team building, performance, and more. So always available for that. You can get in touch with me through my website, renniecurran.com. If there are athletes out there as well, too, who want mentoring, or coaches who want me to come and speak, or want other former athletes to come and speak as well, you can visit GameChangersFoundationGA.org, and we'll definitely be in touch with you to see how we can add value and just provide that impact and everything. So yeah, and then I'm active on Instagram, LinkedIn, all those platforms. So feel free to reach out to me. Always love hearing from the Bulldog Nation, and yeah, appreciate you guys.
Thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully we have not taken up too much of your time today.
Nah, man, it's always a pleasure. Thank you guys so much for having me on.
All right, and we'll do it again soon.
Awesome.
Thanks, Rennie. See ya.
That was an interesting interview, and we want to thank Rennie for joining us. And hopefully, like I said, we didn't keep him too long, because we kept him for a long time. And that wraps up the interview with Rennie Curran. We hope all of you guys enjoyed it. And we want to say thank you so much for Rennie Curran for coming on the Stingray Show to tell us all about his playing days and what he's doing now. And once again, if you would like to hear him being a motivational speaker, you can find him on Twitter, on Facebook, and other platforms as well, like his website, like he just mentioned. All right, well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Stingray Show. We will be right back here on social media with a special edition on Thursday. Now, we're not going to tell you who the special guest is just yet. We're going to keep you guys in suspense, but we will be having a short show on Thursday with a very, very special guest and a Hollywood celebrity. So you're going to want to check that out as well. All right, so that's going to do it for this edition of the Stingray Show, and we hope you have a great rest of your afternoon, evening, and as always, God bless. We will see you guys right back here on Thursday afternoon at 2 p.m. only on the Stingray Show.
The Dogs and Stingray are coming for you!
This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Good afternoon, Mr. Feinbaum. Stingray here, and I'm about to shoot the bull with you like all the Auburn students do down at Auburn.
Worst defense ever!
So without further ado, here is the biggest Alabama going for the field goal. The kick is up. It is away. It is no good. Chris Davis bringing it out of the end zone. Oh, he's got blockers. Chris Davis up the sideline. Here he goes.
Here we go, guys. Dobbs back to pass. Launching the ball. Jennings, he's got it. Jennings, he's got it. Touchdown, Tennessee. They shocked the Dogs in Sanford Stadium. Are you kidding me? My God almighty, what an epic way for the Tennessee-Georgia rivalry